Well, I know of no reason that would prevent me from doing the best job I could. And my background as an advocate on one side, usually on the defendant's side, and while on the court, I have participated in every type of case that comes before the federal courts. I don't know of a single field in which I have not written at least one opinion. And those range from formerly unfamiliar fields such as Security Exchange Commission on through to cases involving the rights of criminals. I'm certain that there's no possible reason that I could have to not adequately represent this government, which is after all my government, just as it is all of our government.
General of the United States, Vice Admiral Cox. Notice of this hearing was published in the Congressional Record, July 26, 1965. Senator Javits, by formal notification, approves the nomination. Senator Kennedy, by formal notification, approves the nomination. And at this time, the senior senator from the state of New York, Mr. Javits, is recognized for the purpose of presenting a statement on behalf of the nominee, Judge Thurgood Marshall, to be Solicitor General of the United States.
Mr. Chairman, it's a pleasure, honor, in introducing to the subcommittee, of which I also have the honor to be a member, Mr. Thurgood Marshall, now a Justice of the Circuit Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, and a lawyer and distinguished New Yorker whom I've known for, I'm just trying to think back in my mind, but at least 20 years.
When you were still a guard?
When I was still
in the Army.
Yeah, when I was still in the Army. That goes back even longer than that. And I have watched his career with great pride and satisfaction, and his growth into one of the most distinguished trial lawyers in this nation, especially noted for the early perception of the trend of decisions under the Constitution as it affected the interpretation of the mandate of the 14th and 15th Amendments to the Constitution. He has had an exemplary career with distinguished opinions to his credit and a fine quality of judicial temper. And yet I must feel, Mr. Chairman, that in returning to the lists, as it were, Solicitor General of the United States, he returns on the highest level of which our country is capable to his true calling, that of a trial lawyer, and especially that of a lawyer arguing cases before the highest appellate court. He will, I know, be one of the most distinguished Solicitors General that we have had. These are so native to his talents, these duties that he will now be performing. Also, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be otherwise. And of course, this will give him an additional strength as Solicitor General of the United States. It is not often that a man in the fullness of his years and his talents has this opportunity to fulfill what I think is really almost his mission in life. And I feel he will do that as Solicitor General. May I say, too, Mr. Chairman, that I'm so deeply gratified that this particular chairman has been chosen to conduct these hearings. They have been conducted with the greatest speed and celerity. There was a slight contretemps for a minute over the thought that I hadn't sent my slip in on time, which, of course, had been more than anxious to do. Perhaps it's because it was so carefully carried by hand, it was delayed rather than accelerated. So that he may embark on duties for which he has been by nature and training so richly endowed.
Senator from the state of New York, Robert Kennedy, to make such presentation he desires and to present the nominee to the committee.
Mr. Chairman, I am happy also to present Thurgood Marshall to this committee, to the chairman. I had the honor of recommending Judge Marshall to President Kennedy as a member of the Second Circuit Court of Appeals back in 1961. He had served with great distinction as a lawyer prior to that time, and we felt that was one of the best appointments that was made. He has served with great honor as a judge of the Second Circuit. His opinions, I think, have been noteworthy and distinguished. He has shown great compassion during his whole life as well as tremendous talent. So I think that he has big shoes to fill with his predecessor, Mr. Archie Cox, who I think was one of the great Solicitor Generals of all time. But I know the talent that Thurgood Marshall has, with the understanding that he has of the law and with the compassion and understanding that he has of people, that he'll make one of the great Solicitor Generals of the history of this country. So I'm very proud to introduce him to this committee.
I had it once before in a New Jersey court. The judge said, since you're not a member of the Bar of New Jersey, how can you convince me that you're a competent lawyer? And I told him I could very easily demonstrate I was incompetent, but I didn't see how I could demonstrate I was competent. And I'm afraid I'm in that position here, but I'm perfectly willing to ask any question.
To the General of the United States, based upon your experience in the whole range of cases which you will be handling.
The 4 terms I spent on the Court of Appeals has given me a clearer understanding of just what the law means. I would hope that that would help.
Would you find any difficulty in advocacy in the position of the United States in civil rights cases?
Not in the least.
Whatever side the United States...
I represent the United States government, and I'll do it in the best I can. And there would personal emotions one way or the other. Once you become an advocate, that's it. I would have no trouble too.
Now, you feel free to tell us, Mr. Marshall, why you felt the call to leave the bench in its security and its lifetime tenure when the President asked you to be Solicitor General. Why did you feel you had to accept it?
It's because the President of the United States told me that he thought I was the best person at the time to represent the United States as Solicitor General and asked me to do it. That was the reason. The reason was the President asked me to assume this position. And I believe that in this time especially we do what our government requests of us, and personal feelings to the contrary.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm acting fairly, effectively, and efficiently for the United States government in this position.
Not at all, sir. I believe that... Thank
Any
you,
other
sir.
questions from the committee? I'll get that. Do you want to step down? Is there any person in the room that wish to... No. Me too. Meeting adjourned.